Hi everybody. So this is going to be kind of a little bit of a directed instruction, but we're also going to, because we need to keep going forward because we're going to be starting To Kill a Mockingbird pretty soon. So I need you to take out the worksheet that I gave you last week. It should say the word Rhetorical Devices at the front, and then it has the poem or the list that we've looked at already called Just for Today. We've looked at this before, but it's a good one to review for a Monday. So if you would take that out, you're also going to need some highlighters. So grab some of those. Remember, you're going to put them back because we use them a lot. And but there's not going to be any kind of code that you're going to use. Okay. So we're going to repeat first of all, or take a look at those qualities of persuasion, those persuasive elements, and also those rhetorical devices. So at the top of the paper it talks about rhetorical devices, and we have the word anaphora, repetition of words or phrases often at the beginning of sentences. We have the word parallelism, when we repeat a grammar structure and it often looks like a list. We've talked about personification, giving human qualities to something that's not human, and there's a hint there to look for pronouns or capital letters. We have not talked too much about the word inversion. Inversion is when you throw something in that kind of interrupts the flow of a speech or writing. It could be the word like however. I see the word inversion when you, on the other hand, or something that would be set off by commas. And then, of course, the word repetition. So taking out a highlighter and creating your own key, whatever key you want, one color for anaphora, another color for parallelism. Well, let's use parallelism. Let's underline it because a lot of times anaphora and parallelism go hand in hand. So a color for anaphora, underline parallelism, another color for personification, and we're going to do those three. There is not any inversion. Okay, so if Mrs. Chadwick would hit the pause button at this time, we're going to give you about 3 minutes to find these, only because we have done this before. Okay, so hit pause now. Okay, so I used yellow, and I also used green for a couple of other things. I probably should have a different color for my personification, so I will erase that here. All right, so what color should I use? I'll use purple. Okay. So I used yellow for the anaphora because we've already talked about it. It's at the beginning of a sentence. And then I found a couple of places where there's parallelism because it's a list: friend, relative, colleague. Well-modulated voice, be courteous and considerate. Although I'll be honest, that's really weak parallelism. And then the idea of two enemies that I want to hurry in a decision, as far as I know, is not, what do you want to call it? That is not, those aren't human, okay? And then just for today, I will believe in myself and the world. Whoops, that's where I need to use a little bit more purple there, because the world would be giving human qualities to things that are not human. Okay. Now we're going to have you flip your worksheet over because now we're going to use this information in something that is a little bit newer. Okay. So we are going to talk about President Kennedy's address to the nation, and we're going to point out the word juxtaposition. It's not in your box. I'm not quite sure why it's not in your box, but remember that juxtaposition is when you put two things side by side. So like when we watched the Michael Jordan failure commercial, he was anything but a failure. Okay, so let's look at the top of the worksheet. Persuasive writing attempts to convince an audience to think in a certain way or adopt a particular course of action. So how about you take a highlighter and you highlight that one color, okay? All right. Then it says it uses logic and reason just like as an argument does, but unlike an argument, it also appeals to a reader's and listeners' emotion. Using the same color, highlight the words readers and listeners' emotion. Remember, persuasion is about including that pathos. Okay? Persuasive writers state one or more of the problems as well as the recommendations for what the audience should do, think, or say. Sometimes a recommendation is an assertion, a statement of belief that's usually short, precise, and direct. So would you please take a second color and highlight the word assertion and then the definition that's behind it. A statement of belief that is usually short, precise, or direct. So we are going to kind of work with that today with an excerpt of President Kennedy's speech that was made in 1963. He died in November of 1963, and this is when he decided to support the concept of a civil rights bill. So let's read it together. The heart of the question is whether all Americans are to be afforded equal rights and equal opportunities, whether we're going to treat our fellow Americans as we want to be treated. If an American, because his skin is dark, cannot eat lunch at a restaurant open to the public, if he cannot send his children to the best public school available, if he cannot vote for the public officials who will represent him, if, in short, he cannot enjoy the full and free life which all of us want, then who among us would be content to have the color of his skin changed and stand in his place? Who among us would then be content with the counsels of patience and delay? 100 years of delay have passed since President Lincoln freed the slaves, yet their heirs, their grandsons, are not fully free. They are not free from the bonds of injustice. They are not yet freed from social and economic oppression. And this nation, for all its hopes and all its boasts, will not be fully free until all of its citizens are free. Okay? So we're going to take a look at this in conjunction to the rhetorical devices and persuasions. So what would you say is Kennedy's claim? What was his purpose? Okay? Well, I think, oops, come on. There we go. His purpose, now we're not answering the questions that are below it, okay? But his purpose or his claim is his need for full equality and civil rights. So can you find that sentence that is to persuade us the need for equal rights and equal and civil rights? Okay. If you are like me, you should have looked at the first sentence. Okay? So is this persuasion or an argument? Remember, persuasion has emotion to it. Argument shows the other side. Okay. I'm hoping that you said persuasion because there is no other side. What is he going to tell us to do? Stay racist? Okay. So now we're going to look for that statement of belief that is usually short, precise. Can you find one in your reading? Again, Mrs. Chadwick can hit pause anytime you need a little bit more time. Okay. I just chose the one, they are not yet free. It's a nice short sentence. The other thing is I would like you to take a color, if you would, and I'm going to have you, let's say blue, and I want you to highlight those rhetorical questions that are there. Okay? So we're going to take the blue highlighter, and we're going to find and pretty easy to find, because we're just going to look for the question. Whoa, what happened there? Undo. All right. That's a horrible straight line. There we go. But now I want you to look for that anaphora. Okay? They are not yet freed. Whoops, I missed one. They are not yet freed. Okay, that's really powerful. And because he uses the word freed, free, that repetition is so powerful. Whoops, I missed one. Free, all in this final sentence. And that is because, going back, does he use facts or opinions to support his claim? Well, he's using a lot of emotion, pathos, okay? And that pathos is because this is an emotional issue, okay? And it is not necessarily a logical issue. It is an emotional one. And he is trying to tell us that the solution, and the only solution, is that we must do something to change this. And like I said, this is going to lead to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which was an attempt to try to even the playing field between blacks and whites. So we're going to go back and take a look, like we said. Whoops. So it looks like it slid things down here. There we go. So look at the sentence that had all the ifs in there. If, the anaphora. But then the parallelism, if he cannot send his, if he cannot. And then he's got who among us. That blue highlighting, that is our rhetorical question. Okay? So look at the anaphora in this excerpt, and look at the anaphora and look at the parallelism in this short little speech and how powerful it is. So let's take a look at the box that's underneath here. Okay? See if I can find it here. Sorry, I am not finding it here. So I thought it was the next slide, so let's see what I can do here. We'll just go like this, guys. Okay? So we talk about all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. So that repetition of all forms of human, why is that a powerful, what rhetorical device is being used? I'll slide down and see if usually I have it here, so I'm not quite sure where it went. Well, if you are answering me, which I hope you are, you would have had that it's an example of anaphora. Okay? What does the anaphora have to do? It drives the point home. Okay? It adds for all of this powerful symbolism. United, there is little we cannot do. Divided, there is little we can do. So we've got the word united and divided. What would you say that is? Well, hopefully you're saying it's juxtaposition. And the contrast makes the point more clear. Okay? So it's using the opposite to help us understand it better. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation. So what do you think that is, everyone? Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation. Okay? So you've got hope, and then, which is something that you have in good times, and tribulations is in the trials. So you could have a little juxtaposition. Okay? Because you're talking about hope and tribulation, that idea of opposites again. Ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. And this one is probably just the idea of repetition. Okay? Drive that drive that point home. Okay? So, a lot of me talking today. Sorry, that's just kind of the way it is. What you need now to do is, turning to page 378 in your textbook, you are going to look up the 10 words that are going to be from John F. Kennedy's inaugural address. We're going to attack that tomorrow. So if you will now take out your books and look up the vocabulary for the new generation of Americans. All right, we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day, everybody.